Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Discovery, watching the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. His hands were steady, but his heart was racing. After 300 years of dreams and 50 years of hard work, humanity was finally meeting their neighbors in the galaxy. Distance to Nexus Prime is now 2 million kilometers. Captain, said Ryan Brooks from the communications stations. The young officer's voice carried the same excitement that filled the entire crew. We're getting automated signals from the station. They're asking us to identify ourselves. Jake nodded and straightened his uniform. This moment would change everything for humanity. The station ahead was bigger than any city on Earth. It spun slowly around a dead star, its metal surfaces gleaming, with lights from a dozen different alien civilizations. Dr. Carter, are you ready with the first contact protocols? Jake asked. Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her science station. She had spent years studying what little humanity knew about alien life. Her hands moved quickly over her controls as she prepared the greeting message they had practiced hundreds of times. Ready, Captain? The message contains our peaceful intentions, basic information about human civilization, and our desire to join the galactic community. Jake took a deep breath. Send it! The message flew across space at the speed of light. For 20 seconds, the bridge was completely silent. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the response that would mark humanity's entry into galactic civilization. The reply came as a simple text message on Ryan's screen. He read it twice before speaking, his voice flat with disappointment. Captain, they're directing us to dock at Bay 712. We're to remain in our ship until a processing officer can meet with us. Sam Rodriguez, the ship's chief engineer, frowned. Processing officer? That doesn't sound very welcoming. Jake tried to stay positive. Maybe it's just their standard procedure. Every civilization probably has different customs. The Discovery moved slowly toward the docking bay. As they got closer, Jake could see other ships docked at the station. Some were sleek and silver. Others were organic-looking with curved surfaces like living creatures. A few ships seemed to be made of pure crystal that caught and reflected the station's lights. Look at those ships, whispered Amy Johnson, the security chief. Each one is completely different. We're about to meet beings we never imagined existed. The docking process was smooth and automatic. Mechanical arms reached out from the station and guided the Discovery into place. Jake watched through the viewports as aliens moved around the docking bay. Some floated in the air, others walked on multiple legs, and a few seemed to be made of energy rather than solid matter. Captain, we have a visitor, Ryan announced. Someone is requesting permission to board. Grant it, Jake replied, and have everyone gather in the main conference room. This is it, people. First contact. The alien who entered their ship was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were large and black, and it wore a simple brown uniform with no decorations. It moved with quick, efficient motions and carried a small device that glowed softly. I am Processing Officer Kent of the Galactic Commerce Alliance, it said in perfect English. Its voice was flat and emotionless. You are the representatives of the species called humans. Yes, Jake replied, stepping forward with his hand extended in greeting. I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Discovery. We're honored to meet you. Kent looked at Jake's outstretched hand but didn't take it. Instead, it activated its glowing device and began speaking in a monotone voice. Your species has achieved faster than light travel and located our central trade hub. This qualifies you for probationary species status within the Alliance. You will now be given the standard information packet and application forms. Jake felt his excitement fading. Application forms, yes. Your species must complete a formal application process before being considered for Alliance membership. This process typically takes 20 to 30 of your Earth years. During this time, you will have no voting rights, no trade privileges, and no access to Alliance technology or resources. Dr. Carter stepped forward. We understand the need for proper procedures, but we've traveled a long way to meet you. Surely there's some way we can begin cultural and scientific exchanges while the paperwork is processed. Kent's large eyes turned to her. Cultural exchanges are reserved for full Alliance members. Your species lacks the necessary development level for meaningful contribution to Alliance affairs. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. Development level. We've achieved faster than light travel. Our technology is advanced enough to build this ship and cross the galaxy to find you. Your technology is primitive compared to Alliance standards, Kent replied without emotion. The Zephyrian Collective achieved faster than light travel 3,000 years ago. The ethereal dominion has existed as pure energy for 5,000 years. Your species has been spacefaring for less than 400 years. Amy Johnson's face was turning red with anger. So you're saying that because we're younger, we're automatically inferior? I am stating facts based on Alliance policy, Kent said. Young species are impulsive and unpredictable. They require guidance and observation before being trusted. With full membership privileges, Jake tried a different approach. What can you tell us about the Alliance? How many species are members? Kent's device beeped, and it looked down at the display. 12 species hold full membership status. 6 species hold associate membership. 43 species hold probationary status. Your species would be the 44th probationary member? And how long do species typically remain probationary? Dr. Carter asked. The average time is 87 years. Some species have been probationary for over 200 years. The conference room fell silent. Jake felt the dreams of generations of humans crumbling around him. This wasn't the welcoming galactic community they had hoped to find. This was a bureaucratic nightmare designed to keep new species in their place. What about trade? Sam Rodriguez asked. Can we at least engage in commerce while we wait for full membership? Probationary species may purchase basic supplies and raw materials from Alliance merchants, Kent replied. However, advanced technology, rare materials, and luxury goods are restricted to full members only. Ryan Brooks spoke up from the back of the room. And I suppose we have to pay premium prices for these basic supplies. Alliance merchants set their own prices according to market conditions, Kent said. Probationary species typically pay higher rates due to their limited trading status. Jake felt his diplomatic training taking over. Despite his growing anger, he kept his voice calm and professional. Officer Kent, we appreciate your time and information. We'd like to tour the station and meet representatives from some of the other species, if possible. Tours are available for a fee, Kent replied. However, most species prefer not to waste time meeting with probationary members. The Zephyrian Collective considers humans too primitive for meaningful dialogue. The ethereal dominion views carbon-based life as inherently limited. The Hive Queens of Kepler have declared humans energetically insignificant. Each word felt like another nail in the coffin of human hopes. Jake looked around the room at his crew. He saw disappointment, anger, and confusion on every face. I see, Jake said quietly. And what exactly do we need to do to improve our standing? Kent's device beeped again. Submit your application, establish a permanent embassy on the station, pay the required fees, and wait for processing. During the probationary period, your species should focus on developing your home system and learning proper galactic etiquette. Proper galactic etiquette, Amy Johnson repeated slowly. You mean learning our place? Kent looked at her with those large, emotionless eyes. I mean learning to function within an established system that has maintained peace and prosperity for over 3 millennia. Jake realized the meeting was over. These aliens had no interest in what humanity could offer. They saw humans as just another young species to be processed, categorized, and kept in line. Thank you for your time, Officer Kent, Jake said. We'll need to discuss this with our government before proceeding. Kent nodded and moved toward the door. Your ship may remain docked for 72 hours. After that time, docking fees will apply. As the alien left their ship, Jake looked at his crew. The excitement and hope they had carried across the galaxy was gone, replaced by a cold understanding of their situation. Humanity had finally reached the stars, only to discover that the galaxy didn't want them. 6 months had passed since the Discovery first arrived at Nexus Prime. Captain Jake Morrison had been promoted to Admiral and now commanded a small fleet of human ships stationed near the massive alien space station. Despite months of diplomatic efforts, humanity's situation had not improved. Commander Kate Phillips walked into the conference room aboard the flagship U.S. Endeavor, carrying a stack of documents and wearing a tired expression. As humanity's new diplomatic liaison, she had spent weeks trying to arrange meetings with alien representatives. The results were always the same. "Any luck with the Aquatic Federation?" Admiral Morrison asked, though he could already see the answer on her face. Kate sat down heavily in her chair. "Depsinger Nother agreed to meet with me for 5 minutes. He spent the entire time explaining how humans lack what he called evolutionary sophistication. According to him, we're too young as a species to understand the complexities of galactic politics." Dr. Helen Wright, the fleet's chief physicist, looked up from her datapad. What did he mean by evolutionary sophistication? He said that his people have been spacefaring for over 2,000 years. They've learned patience and wisdom that comes only with age. Humans, he claimed, are still too impulsive and emotional to be trusted with important decisions. Engineer Tony Clark laughed bitterly. "Impulsive? We spent 3 centuries developing the technology to get here. We've been planning this mission for 50 years. How is that impulsive?" Kate shrugged. "I tried to explain that, but he wasn't interested in listening. He suggested that humanity should spend the next few hundred years developing our home system and learning to control our aggressive tendencies." Admiral Morrison felt his jaw tighten. Aggressive tendencies. Apparently, our history of wars and conflicts makes us unsuitable for peaceful galactic commerce. Never mind that his own people had 3 civil wars in the last millennium. Communication specialist Matt Davis entered the room with a grim expression. He had been monitoring alien communications for weeks, trying to understand how the different species interacted with each other. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the communication patterns between Alliance members," Matt said, taking a seat at the table. "I think I've figured out why they're treating us this way." "Go ahead, Morrison," replied. Matt activated a holographic display, showing communication flows between different alien vessels. "Look at this! The established Alliance members communicate constantly with each other. They share technical data, coordinate trade routes, and exchange cultural information. But watch what happens when a probationary species tries to join the conversation." The display changed, showing how messages from newer species were either ignored or responded to with short, dismissive replies. "They're not just being rude," Matt continued. "This is deliberate isolation. They're cutting us off from the information networks that would help us understand how the galaxy really works." Dr. Wright leaned forward. "That explains why Officer Kent couldn't give us detailed information about Alliance operations. They don't want us to know too much." Kate nodded. "It's worse than that. Yesterday, I met with a representative from the Silicon-based collective. He spent 20 minutes explaining how carbon-based life forms are inherently limited. According to him, we can never truly understand the universe because our brains work too slowly." Tony Clark's eyes widened. "Our brains work too slowly. We invented faster than light travel in less time than it took them to develop basic metallurgy." "I pointed that out," Kate replied. "He said that rapid technological development is actually a sign of dangerous instability. Stable civilizations," he claimed, "develop technology gradually over thousands of years." Admiral Morrison stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at Nexus Prime. The massive station continued its slow rotation, filled with aliens who seemed determined to keep humanity at arm's length. "What about the psionic assembly?" he asked. "Did you manage to speak with any of their representatives?" Kate's expression darkened. "That was the worst meeting yet. They claim that humans are cognitively limited because we can't communicate telepathically. According to them, spoken language is a primitive form of communication used only by underdeveloped species. But we developed radio, television, and quantum communication networks," Dr. Wright protested. "Our technology allows us to communicate across vast distances instantly." They said that technological communication is just an artificial substitute for natural telepathic abilities. They claimed that species which rely on technology instead of mental evolution are destined to remain inferior. Matt Davis pulled up another display showing decoded alien transmissions. "Admiral, there's something else you need to see. I've been intercepting private communications between Alliance members. They're not just dismissing us because they think we're primitive. The display showed message fragments in various alien languages, with translations appearing below each one. "Look at this transmission from the Zephyrian Collective to the Ethereal Dominion," Matt said, highlighting one message. "They're discussing what they call the human advancement rate." Admiral Morrison read the translation aloud. "Human technological development exceeds predicted parameters. Recommend containment protocols before they achieve parity with established systems." The room fell silent. Kate was the first to speak. "Containment protocols." Matt highlighted another message. "Here's one from the Hive Queens to the Aquatic Federation. Human quantum fold drive technology represents potential disruption to established trade routes. Suggests economic isolation until technology can be acquired or neutralized." Tony Clark's face was turning red with anger. "They're not treating us badly because they think we're primitive. They're afraid of us." Dr. Wright was studying the intercepted messages intently. "Look at the dates on these transmissions. They started discussing containment within hours of our arrival. They had already decided to keep us isolated before they'd even met with us." Admiral Morrison felt a cold realization settling over him. "They're not trying to help us develop into full Alliance members. They're trying to prevent us from becoming a threat to their established order." Kate looked through her notes from the various meetings. "That explains why every representative gave me a different excuse for why humans aren't ready for full membership. They're just making up reasons to justify keeping us out." Matt pulled up more intercepted communications. "It gets worse. They've been researching our history, our technology, and our expansion plans. Look at this analysis from the Ethereal Dominion." The message appeared on screen with its translation. "Human expansion patterns suggest aggressive colonization tendencies. Species demonstrates concerning ability to adapt quickly to new environments. Recommend monitoring all human activities outside their home system." Aggressive colonization. Tony Clark stood up angrily. "We've established exactly 12 colonies in uninhabited systems. The Zephyrian Collective has over 300 worlds." Dr. Wright was reading through more of the intercepted data. "According to this intelligence report, they're particularly concerned about our quantum fold drive. They claim it could revolutionize space travel and upset the current balance of power." Admiral Morrison turned back to face his officers. "What exactly is our quantum fold drive doing that has them so worried?" Tony Clark activated his own display, showing technical specifications. "Our drive is about 40% more efficient than the fastest Alliance vessels. More importantly, it's scalable. We can build quantum fold drives for small ships that perform almost as well as the massive drives on their capital ships." "And that's a problem because," Kate asked, "because it means small, independent civilizations could have the same mobility as the major Alliance powers." Dr. Wright explained. "It breaks their monopoly on long-range space travel." Matt highlighted another intercepted message. "Here's something interesting. The Alliance has been using trade restrictions and technology limitations to control smaller species for centuries. They maintain their dominance by making sure no one else can develop technology that might challenge their position." Admiral Morrison felt pieces of a larger puzzle falling into place. "So when we show up with advanced technology they didn't give us, it threatens their entire system of control." "Exactly," Kate replied. "And from what I've observed, they use the probationary membership system to keep emerging species under their thumb indefinitely. Most species eventually give up trying to achieve full membership and accept their subordinate status." Tony Clark was reviewing more technical data. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the technology I've seen on Nexus Prime. Most of it is centuries old. These civilizations have become comfortable with their established roles. They're not innovating anymore." Dr. Wright nodded. "That makes sense. If you're guaranteed a comfortable position in the existing hierarchy, why take risks developing new technology?" Matt Davis pulled up one final message that made everyone in the room go quiet. "This is from yesterday, sent from the Alliance Council to all member species." The translation appeared on screen. "Human presence at Nexus Prime continues to attract attention from probationary species. Several have requested meetings with human representatives. Recommend accelerated timeline for containment protocols." 2 years had passed since humanity first arrived at Nexus Prime. Admiral Jake Morrison now commanded a fleet of 20 ships stationed in neutral space just outside Alliance territory. What had started as a diplomatic mission had become something entirely different. Dr. Rachel Stone sat in her office aboard the research vessel Pathfinder, surrounded by screens showing economic data from across the galaxy. As humanity's leading expert on galactic trade, she had spent months analyzing how the Alliance economy actually worked. What she had discovered was shocking. "Admiral, you need to see this," Rachel said over the communication link to more flagship. Within an hour, Admiral Morrison, Commander Kate Phillips, and Chief Science Officer Ben Parker had gathered in Rachel's cramped office. The walls were covered with charts, graphs, and economic models that painted a disturbing picture of galactic civilization. "I've been studying the Alliance trade networks for over a year," Rachel began, pointing to a large display showing resource flows between star systems. "At first, I thought they were just inefficient. Now I realize they're deliberately inefficient." Ben Parker leaned closer to examine the data. "What do you mean, deliberately inefficient?" Rachel highlighted several trade routes on the display. "Look at this! The Zephyrian Collective controls the mining rights to rare metals in the Kepler sector, but instead of processing those metals locally, they ship the raw materials halfway across the galaxy to ethereal Dominion facilities. That seems wasteful," Kate observed. "It is wasteful, but it's also brilliant," Rachel continued. "By spreading production across multiple star systems controlled by different species, they make sure no single civilization can become self-sufficient. Everyone depends on everyone else, which keeps the current power structure stable." Admiral Morrison studied the charts, so they maintain control by making sure no one can survive without the Alliance. "Exactly. But there's more." Rachel brought up another display showing price fluctuations over the past century. "They also control prices by creating artificial scarcity. Look at these patterns." The graph showed regular cycles where the prices of essential resources would spike dramatically, then gradually decrease back to normal levels. "Every few years, the Alliance restricts the supply of critical materials," Rachel explained. "This forces smaller civilizations to pay premium prices and use up their savings. When they can't afford the high prices, they have to take loans from Alliance banks." Ben Parker's eyes widened. "And the loan terms probably favor the Alliance." "The loan terms are designed to keep species in permanent debt," Rachel confirmed. "I found records of civilizations that have been making payments on the same loans for over 500 years. Kate Phillips shook her head in disgust. "It's economic slavery disguised as free trade." Rachel nodded grimly. "The entire galactic economy is built on keeping emerging civilizations dependent and subordinate. The Alliance doesn't want partners. They want customers who can never stop buying." Admiral Morrison walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. "And our technology threatens this system. Our quantum fold technology threatens everything they've built," Rachel replied. "If we can travel faster and more efficiently than their ships, we can establish independent trade routes. If we can colonize uninhabited systems quickly, we don't need to buy resources from them. If we can develop new technologies without their help, other species might start asking why they need the Alliance at all." Ben Parker had been quietly reviewing the economic data. "Rachel, have you found any evidence of species that tried to break free from this system?" Rachel's expression darkened. "That's the most disturbing part of my research. Over the past 1,000 years, at least 15 species have attempted to establish independent economic systems. What happened to them?" Kate asked, though her tone suggested she already suspected the answer. 3 were completely destroyed in what the Alliance calls defensive wars. 5 others were economically crushed through coordinated trade embargoes and had to accept worse terms than before. The remaining 7 simply disappeared from galactic records. The room fell silent. Admiral Morrison turned back to face his officers. "Disappeared? How?" Rachel brought up another display showing historical data. "The Alliance claims they died out naturally or left for other galaxies, but I found fragments of old communications that suggest otherwise. These species were systematically isolated, their trade routes blocked, their colonies cut off from essential supplies." Ben Parker was studying his own data on alien technology. "Admiral, this explains something I've been puzzling over. I've been analyzing the technical specifications of Alliance equipment and most of their innovations are centuries old. How is that possible? Kate asked. Civilizations should be constantly improving their technology. Not if innovation threatens the established order, Ben replied. Think about it. If you're guaranteed a comfortable position in the current system, why would you risk developing technology that might upset that system? Rachel nodded. The Alliance has created a civilization where innovation is actually discouraged. They've traded progress for stability. Admiral Morrison felt a chill run down his spine, and we represent the thing they fear most. We represent change, Rachel confirmed. Rapid technological advancement, independent thinking, and the willingness to challenge established systems, everything the Alliance has spent centuries trying to suppress. Ben Parker activated his own display, showing technical specifications for human technology. I've made some breakthrough discoveries while studying our quantum fold systems. The principles behind our drive technology could revolutionize more than just space travel. What do you mean? Admiral Morrison asked. Ben's eyes lit up with excitement. The quantum fold effect could be applied to energy generation, manufacturing, even biological processes. We could create matter from pure energy, generate unlimited clean power, and potentially extend human lifespan indefinitely. Kate Phillips stared at the technical displays. And the Alliance knows this. They have to suspect it, Ben replied. Their scientists might be stagnant, but they're not stupid. They can see the potential in our technology, even if they're too afraid to develop it themselves. Rachel pulled up her most recent intelligence reports. Ben's right. I've been monitoring Alliance communications, and they're getting more concerned about human activities every month. Look at this message from last week. The decoded transmission appeared on screen. Human technological advancement continues to exceed projections. Recommend immediate implementation of containment protocols before situation becomes unmanageable. Admiral Morrison read the message twice. Containment protocols. They're planning to take direct action against us. It gets worse, Rachel continued, bringing up additional intercepts. They're planning to blockade human space, cutting off Earth and our colonies from galactic trade routes. If that doesn't work, they're prepared to use what they call defensive measures. Ben Parker's face went pale. Defensive measures. Military action, Kate Phillips said quietly. They're planning to attack us if we don't submit to their control. Admiral Morrison felt the weight of humanity's future settling on his shoulders. For 2 years, they had tried diplomacy, hoping to find a place in galactic civilization. Now, it was clear that the galaxy's established powers would never accept humanity as equals. When are they planning to implement these protocols? He asked. Rachel checked her data. Based on the communications patterns, I estimate we have 6 months before they begin the blockade. Maybe less. The Admiral looked around the room at his senior staff. These were some of humanity's brightest minds, and they had just discovered that their species faced a choice between submission and destruction. There's something else, Ben Parker said hesitantly. I've been running calculations on our technology. With some modifications, we could make our ships completely undetectable to Alliance sensors. Kate Phillips leaned forward. Undetectable how? By folding space around our vessels, Ben explained. We could travel through normal space while remaining essentially invisible. The Alliance wouldn't be able to track our movements or predict our actions. Rachel was studying her economic models again. That could change everything. If we can move freely without being detected, we could establish independent colonies anywhere in the galaxy. We could make contact with other species without the Alliance knowing about it. Admiral Morrison felt a spark of hope for the first time in months. What would we need to implement this technology? Ben Parker was already running calculations. 6 months of dedicated research and development. We'd need to modify our entire fleet. But it's definitely possible. And what about resources? The Admiral asked. Can we become self-sufficient without Alliance trade? Rachel smiled for the first time in weeks. Our quantum fold manufacturing technology is already more advanced than anything the Alliance uses. We can produce everything we need from raw materials. We don't actually need their trade networks at all. Kate Phillips was beginning to understand the implications, so we could essentially disappear from their view while building our own civilization. More than that, Ben Parker replied, "We could offer other species an alternative to alliance membership. Independent civilizations working together by choice rather than economic coercion." Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the communications center of his flagship, preparing to deliver the most important message in human history. In front of him was a direct link to Earth, where the leaders of every human nation waited for his report. Behind him stood his senior officers, all of whom had worked tirelessly to prepare for this moment. "Earth Command, this is Admiral Morrison," he said into the microphone. "After 3 years of diplomatic efforts, we have reached a conclusion about humanity's relationship with the Galactic Commerce Alliance." The response came after a brief delay caused by the vast distance between Earth and Nexus Prime. "Go ahead, Admiral. The entire Global Council is listening." Morrison took a deep breath. "The Alliance has made it clear that they will never accept humanity as equals. They view us as a threat to their established order and are planning military action to contain our expansion. We recommend immediate implementation of Project Silent Exodus." Project Silent Exodus had been humanity's secret backup plan developed quietly over the past year by the brightest minds on Earth and in the fleet. The plan was simple in concept but revolutionary in execution. Humanity would withdraw completely from Alliance space and establish their own civilization beyond the reach of galactic powers. The response from Earth came quickly. "Admiral, the Global Council has reviewed your recommendations. Project Silent Exodus is approved. You have full authority to begin implementation immediately." Morrison felt a mixture of relief and determination. "Understood, Earth Command. Beginning Phase 1 operations now." As the communication link closed, Morrison turned to his officers. "You know what to do. Let's make history." Over the next weeks, humanity began the largest coordinated effort in their species' history. To outside observers, it appeared that humans were simply giving up and preparing to return to their home system. Human ships began leaving Nexus Prime in small groups, their captains citing budget constraints and failed negotiations as reasons for departure. Director Linda Gray coordinated the colonial expansion from her command. Ship Pioneer, she had been secretly identifying uninhabited star systems far from Alliance territory for over a year. Each system offered the resources needed to support human colonies while remaining completely hidden from galactic sensors. "Captain Torres, what's the status on the Horizon expedition?" Linda asked during her daily briefing. Captain Daniel Torres appeared on the communication screen from his exploration vessel. "We've identified 17 suitable systems in the Outer Rim sectors. All are rich in rare metals and have planets capable of supporting human life with minimal terraforming." "Excellent. Begin establishing preliminary outposts in systems Alpha 7 through Alpha 12. Remember, complete communication silence until the colonies are fully The key to Project Silent Exodus was Chief Engineer Nathan Scott's revolutionary manufacturing technology. Working with a team of brilliant scientists, Nathan had developed quantum fold fabrication systems that could create anything humanity needed from basic raw materials. "How small can you make the fabrication units?" Admiral Morrison asked during a visit to Nathan's laboratory ship. Nathan pointed to a device the size of a large shipping container. "This unit can produce everything a colony of 10,000 people needs to survive. Food, shelter, tools, vehicles, even medical equipment. All it needs is access to common elements like carbon, silicon, and iron." Morrison was amazed. "And these elements are available on most planets. Every rocky planet has them in abundance," Nathan confirmed. "The Alliance maintains control by making civilizations dependent on processed goods shipped across the galaxy. We're eliminating that dependency entirely." Dr. Christopher Lee led the scientific research effort from his mobile laboratory. His teams were scattered across dozens of human ships, all working on different aspects of the technology that would make human independence possible. "We've made a breakthrough in quantum fold energy generation," Christopher reported to Admiral Morrison. "We can now power an entire city with a device smaller than a shuttlecraft. How is that possible?" Morrison asked. Christopher activated a holographic display showing the new energy system. "We're drawing power directly from quantum fluctuations in empty space. The energy is unlimited and completely clean. Each human colony will be energy independent from day one. The most critical aspect of the project was developing the stealth technology that would hide human activities from Alliance sensors. Ben Parker had worked day and night to perfect the quantum-fold cloaking systems that would make human ships and colonies invisible. Final tests are complete, Ben reported to the senior staff. We can now fold space around entire fleets, making them undetectable to any known scanning technology. Kate Phillips, now serving as intelligence coordinator, had been monitoring Alliance communications throughout the preparation period. The Alliance is getting suspicious about the reduction in human activity around Nexus Prime, she reported, but they think we're retreating in defeat. Admiral Morrison smiled grimly. Let them think that. How much more time do we need? Nathan's fabrication units are ready for deployment, Ben Parker reported. Christopher's energy systems are operational. Linda's advanced teams have established supply caches in 47 systems, and our contact with other species, Morrison asked. This was perhaps the most important part of the project. Communications specialist Carl Brown had been secretly reaching out to non-Alliance civilizations, species that had been ignored or oppressed by the galactic powers. I've made contact with representatives from 18 different species, Carl reported. Most are amazed that someone is willing to talk to them as equals. They're very interested in our offer of partnership. These species represented civilizations that the Alliance had dismissed as unimportant. Some were young species like humanity, while others were older civilizations that had been deliberately kept weak through economic manipulation. The Vadani Republic is particularly eager to work with us, Carl continued. They've been trying to break free from Alliance trade restrictions for over a century. When I showed them our fabrication technology, their ambassador nearly cried with joy. Morrison felt a surge of hope. Humanity wasn't just escaping the Alliance's control. They were offering hope to other species who had been trapped in the same system. General Susan Wright had been quietly building humanity's defensive capabilities throughout the preparation period. Rather than constructing massive battleships like the Alliance used, human military planners had developed something entirely different. Our new vessels are ready for field testing, Susan reported from the military research facility. Each ship is 1/10 the size of an Alliance cruiser, but 10 times as effective. How is that possible? Morrison asked. Susan activated a display showing the sleek new human warships. Quantum fold technology allows us to pack enormous firepower into small, fast vessels. A single human destroyer could disable an entire Alliance battle group, and they're completely undetectable until they fire their weapons. Alliance sensors can't even tell they're there. By the time they realize they're under attack, the battle is already over. Morrison hoped they would never need to use these weapons, but the Alliance's threats of military action made defensive preparations necessary. As the months passed, human activity in Alliance space dwindled to almost nothing. Ships that had once buzzed around Nexus Prime were gone. The small human embassy on the station was abandoned. To Alliance observers, it appeared that humanity had given up their dreams of galactic civilization and retreated to their home system in defeat. The reality was exactly the opposite. While the Alliance congratulated themselves on successfully containing the human threat, humanity was establishing the foundation of something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilization based on voluntary cooperation rather than economic coercion. Phase 2 is ready to begin, Linda Gray reported to Admiral Morrison. All advanced colonies are established and operating at full capacity. We're ready to begin the main population transfer. Morrison looked around at his senior staff. These men and women had worked tirelessly to give humanity a future among the stars. Now that future was within reach. How long until we're completely independent? He asked. Nathan Scott checked his calculations. 6 months until all human colonies are fully self-sufficient. 1 year until we can begin offering full partnership to other species. Ben Parker added, the Alliance won't realize what's happening until it's too late to stop it. By the time they understand that we haven't retreated, we'll be beyond their reach. Morrison felt a sense of profound satisfaction. The Alliance had tried to keep humanity trapped in a subordinate role, threatening military action if humans refused to submit. Instead, humanity was about to demonstrate something the galaxy had never seen before. Begin Phase 2. Morrison ordered. It's time to show the galaxy that there's a better way to live among the stars. As his officers went to carry out their orders, Morrison realized that humanity's greatest achievement wasn't the technology they had developed or the colonies they were building. It was proving that civilizations could choose their own destiny, free from the control of those who claimed to know better. 5 years had passed since humanity first arrived at Nexus Prime. The massive alien space station continued its slow rotation around the dead star. But something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. High Merchant Vextai of the Zephyrian Collective stared at the reports on his desk with growing confusion and alarm. Explain to me again how an entire star system can simply disappear from our senses, Vextai demanded of his chief intelligence officer. The insectoid alien shifted nervously. On its multiple legs? It began 18 months ago in the Outer Rim sectors. Systems that our long-range scanners had mapped for centuries suddenly became undetectable. At first, we thought it was equipment failure. And now we have confirmed reports of 40 star systems that have gone dark. Not destroyed, not abandoned, simply invisible to all our scanning technology. Vextai felt a chill run through his body. In 3,000 years of galactic civilization, nothing like this had ever happened. Star systems didn't just vanish dot across the station. Similar conversations were taking place in the offices of other Alliance leaders. Depsinger, Northera of the Aquatic Federation, was reviewing reports of mysterious ship sightings near Alliance. Trade routes, the vessels appeared on sensors for brief moments before vanishing completely, as if they had never existed. The Ethereal Dominion's Council of Energy Beings was particularly disturbed. Their advanced perception abilities allowed them to sense life across vast distances, but they were detecting thriving civilizations in areas their instruments showed as empty space. The quantum signatures are unprecedented, reported their chief scientist to the Emergency Council session. These hidden populations are using energy systems we cannot understand or detect. The crisis deepened when Alliance economic advisors noticed troubling patterns in their trade data. Species that had been dependent on Alliance resources for centuries were suddenly reducing their purchases. Worlds that had never been able to produce advanced technology were now manufacturing sophisticated equipment. Dr. Jennifer Lee stood on the observation deck of the human starship Liberation, watching as another group of Verdani Republic vessels emerged from quantum fold space. The green-skinned humanoids had been among the first species to accept humanity's offer of partnership, and their enthusiasm was evident in everything they did. Admiral Morrison, the Verdani delegation, is requesting permission to tour our fabrication facilities. Jennifer reported. Admiral Morrison joined her at the viewport. The Liberation was humanity's new flagship, a vessel that represented everything they had achieved in 5 years of independent development. It was sleek, powerful, and completely invisible to Alliance sensors. Grant the request, Morrison replied. The Verdani have been our most dedicated partners. They deserve to see how far we've all come. The transformation of the Verdani Republic was remarkable. 5 years ago, they had been a struggling civilization barely surviving on the edges of Alliance space. Now they operated a network of prosperous colonies using human technology, their people free from the economic bondage that had trapped them for generations. Captain Daniel Torres arrived from the bridge with the latest reports from the expanding human coalition. Admiral, we now have formal partnerships with 23 independent species. The crystalline communes joined us yesterday, and the nomadic fleets are sending representatives next week. Morrison felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Each new partner represented another civilization that had chosen freedom over the false security of Alliance membership. Together, they were building something unprecedented in galactic history. What's the status of our hidden colonies? Morrison asked. All 87 settlements are operating at full capacity, Torres replied. Total population is now over 50 million humans plus 30 million individuals from partner species. Our manufacturing output exceeds the entire Alliance industrial base. The numbers were staggering. In 5 years, humanity and their partners had created a hidden civilization, larger and more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen. They had achieved this through cooperation and shared technology rather than conquest and control. Meanwhile, the Alliance was discovering that their containment strategy had failed completely. Not only had humanity escaped their control, but they were actively undermining the economic system that kept the Alliance in power. Vexti called an emergency session of the Alliance Council. Representatives from all 12 member species gathered in the Grand Chamber at the heart of Nexus. Prime, the mood was tense and fearful. The human problem has become a galactic crisis, Vexti announced to the assembled delegates. Our intelligence reports indicate that dozens of species are now operating independently of Alliance authority. The representative of the Silicon-based collective spoke first. Impossible! Our economic models show that independent civilizations cannot survive without Alliance support. Your economic models are wrong, replied the ethereal Dominion's ambassador. We are detecting advanced technology and thriving populations throughout the Outer Rim. Someone is providing these species with capabilities they should not possess. Depsy. Norther's voice carried a note of panic. 3 of our traditional trading partners have canceled their resource contracts. They claim they no longer need our services. The chamber erupted in worried conversations. For 3 millennia, the Alliance had maintained control through economic dependency. If species could become truly independent, the entire foundation of galactic civilization would collapse. We must take immediate military action, declared the Hive Queen representative. Crush these rebellious species before their independence spreads further. But even as the Alliance debated their response, more species were making the choice to join humanity's growing coalition. The peaceful wanderers, who had been nomads for centuries, established their first permanent settlements using human technology. The ancient builders, whose civilization predated the Alliance by millennia, emerged from self-imposed isolation to offer their partnership. Each new member brought unique capabilities to the coalition. The crystalline communes contributed their mastery of energy manipulation. The nomadic fleets shared their knowledge of unexplored space. The ancient builders provided historical wisdom and advanced construction techniques. Carl Brown, now serving as humanity's chief diplomatic coordinator, worked tirelessly to integrate these diverse civilizations into a functional partnership. Unlike the Alliance's hierarchical structure, the human coalition operated on principles of equality and mutual benefit. Every species contributes according to their abilities and receives according to their needs. Carl explained to a gathering of new partner representatives, no one is superior or inferior. We're all working together toward common goals. The contrast with Alliance practices was stark. Where the Alliance demanded submission and tribute, the human coalition offered partnership and support. Where the Alliance restricted technology and information, the coalition shared freely with all members. The breakthrough moment came when Alliance long-range sensors detected a massive fleet approaching Nexus Prime. The ships were unlike anything in their databases, sleek and graceful vessels that seemed to bend light around themselves. Incoming transmission from the unknown fleet, reported the station's communication officer. The main screen in the Alliance Council chamber activated, showing Admiral Jake Morrison in the uniform of the human coalition. Behind him stood representatives from 23 different species, a display of unity the Alliance had never achieved. "Greetings, Galactic Commerce Alliance," Morrison said, his voice calm and confident. "I am Admiral Morrison of the Human Coalition Fleet. We come in peace to deliver a message to the people of Alliance space." Vexti found his voice first. "You dare approach our station with military vessels. This is an act of war." Morrison's expression didn't change. "These are not military vessels. Hi, merchant. They are ships of exploration, science, and diplomacy. We come not to threaten, but to offer an alternative." "Alternative to what?" demanded the ethereal Dominion representative. "To the system of control and artificial scarcity that has trapped civilizations for millennia," Morrison replied. "We represent a coalition of free species who have chosen cooperation over coercion, partnership over domination." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Alliance leaders realized they were facing something they had never encountered, a genuinely voluntary association of equals. Morrison continued, "We extend an invitation to all species in Alliance space. Join us in building a galaxy where every civilization can reach its full potential, where technology is shared freely, where resources are abundant and where no one is forced to accept subordinate status. Impossible, Vexty sputtered. Civilizations need guidance, order, control. No, Morrison replied quietly. Civilizations need freedom to grow, to explore, to become whatever they choose to be. We've proven that species can thrive without masters. Behind Morrison, the representatives of 23 species stood united. Humans and Verdani, crystalline beings and ancient builders, nomads and wanderers, all working together as equals. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us, Morrison concluded. But the choice belongs to each species individually. They can remain in the alliance system or join us in creating something better.